Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 52 units of real estate. So I had a great question in the comments asking me to further define what real estate professional status is. And this is something that I'm going to strive to obtain the moment I have kids, the moment my fiance, future wife, goes from a full-time pharmacist to a part-time pharmacist. And to be clear, I think it's actually pretty hard to qualify as a real estate professional status. And it's for good reason, because if you do qualify, all of your passive losses from real estate can offset your active income from your W-2, from your business. So it's a great tax loophole that if you qualify, you can take advantage of a lot, but it does increase your risk of being audited. So this is kind of my understanding of real estate professional status, but obviously once I actually am striving for it, and I might talk to a CPA. I done my own taxes for so long, but I may want to talk to a CPA on this one. But this is like my current understanding so far. So double check what I'm saying with a CPA. I'm not a CPA. I'm just a guy who's done his own taxes for since 2017 for 7 years now. And like I said, I'm gonna try to qualify real estate professional status the moment I'm married and my fiance becomes a part-time pharmacist. So the first rule or test for real estate professional status is more than 50% of your time is spent in real estate activities than non-real estate activities. So for me, I work a full-time W-2, 40 hours a week. Even if I can somehow claim I do 41 hours a week of real estate, I do not qualify. So the moment you have a full-time W-2, this is my understanding, you will never qualify as a real estate professional status, right? However, if I'm a part-time pharmacist, and this is how we're going to try to qualify with my fiance, future wife, is she wants to cut down to part-time. So instead of doing 40 hours a week, she's going to do 20 hours a week. So she's going to work two 10-hour shifts a week, right? So if she can document that she works as a real estate agent, so she probably is going to get her realtor license and become a real estate agent, because it's, I think, the easiest way to qualify as a real estate professional status. That's the most believable, and if you ever got audited by the IRS. And she has to spend at least 21 hours a week basically working as a realtor. So actually trying to be a realtor. And she would need to log her hours as a W-2 pharmacist as well as log her hours as a realtor to prove that more than 50% of her time and effort is as a realtor. So for example, in 1 week, we'd probably get an Excel sheet, and one column would be like pharmacist, one column would be like realtor, and I would just document all the dates and times and activities that we did related to, or that she did related to being a realtor. So for example, if she worked 20 hours 1 week as a pharmacist, she has to document at least 21 hours as a realtor. So what hours would count? So maybe she had an open house and was there for 8 hours. That would count. Maybe she was trying to talk to prospective home buyers. Those hours would count. Maybe she went to I don't even know, like a networking event. Maybe that counts. Or maybe she's like maybe filming a video to advertise a house or create content around being a realtor. I think those hours would count. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the most clear cut to me is, well, if I'm just at an open house, right? Or I'm taking someone to an open house. So, that's something to consider. And I think for sure, it doesn't count. Travel time doesn't count. So if I'm driving like an hour to an open house to meet a client, it doesn't count. But if I'm at that open house with the client for like, an hour, that counts. Um, so, you would need to log your hours as a pharmacist as well as log your hours as a realtor, because when you qualify as claim real estate professional status, your chance of being audited increases significantly, right? And it's pretty significant because imagine, let's just say, I take home $200,000. She takes home $200,000 as full-time pharmacist. She becomes part-time. I still work full-time, so I'm making $200,000 as a pharmacist. Plus now she's making $100,000 as a pharmacist. That's $300,000. And let's just say for simplicity, it's 40% tax in California. That's $120,000 that we pay in tax. But if I can qualify as a real estate professional status and we have $300,000 of passive losses that can be used to offset our active income, I just wiped out all of our taxable income and I'd get a check from Uncle Sam for $120,000, right? And in order to get those passive losses, there's many strategies. You can do buy a property, do a cost segregation. You can renovate properties and do bonus depreciation. There's many ways to build those passive losses, right? I think of other videos talking about that, but those are probably the two main ones. Is maybe I renovate an apartment complex completely, put $30,000, bonus depreciate that year one, or I buy a new property, do cost segregation, and I can write off 30% of that year one. So if I buy $1 million property and I do a cost seg, I could write off $300,000. I get to wipe out my $300,000 active income, right, and get $120,000 back from Uncle Sam. So so that's rule one. Rule two is spend at least 750 hours a year performing real estate activities. So if you break it down over 52 weeks, that's an average of 15 hours per week in real estate activities to meet this, right? So to do the bare minimum, if my fiance was working 20 hours a week as a pharmacist, she has to do 21 hours as a realtor. But let's just say she works 1 day a week. So she works one 10-hour shift a week for 10 hours total, in which case the minimum would be 15 hours as a real estate agent, right? So, and so that I think those are kind of the two rules that come to my mind. Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. I may be missing something. If so, please share down below. I'm still learning this myself. But what counts as real estate services? So the IRS actually lists this pretty clearly, or it's kind of vague, but at the same time makes sense. So the first one is development. So if you're like a real estate developer where you're developing apartments or developing commercial strips, that qualifies as real estate professional status, right? But I don't think for me and my fiance, that's not applicable. We're not going to be developing any real estate, right? That's too much work, too much headache. Number two is construction related to real estate. So maybe I own run or manage a home renovation company, right? So maybe I own a home renovation company that renovates a bunch of homes, right? For investors. Once again, I don't think I would go in that bucket, but maybe if we're being involved in construction of an ADU in our backyard. So maybe let's say we own a house with a backyard and there's an ADU in the backyard. Maybe that time spent managing the general contractor, picking out the materials, planning that, maybe that will count. But like you said, how often are we going to build ADUs, right? So to me, that's not really sustainable. Number three is acquiring real estate. So, for me, this is something that could count, but I think in terms of acquiring, it's not like I'm making 100 offers. I think that time of making 100 offers doesn't count. It's only the property that you actually acquire and those hours associated with that will count. So let's just say I actually send out 100 offers. I cannot count any of that time towards real estate professional status, but if I get one under contract, let's say I got a 26 unit apartment complex under contract, at that point, all the time spent maybe figuring out, talking to mortgage lenders, gathering my financial documents, doing due diligence, doing an inspection, talking to a property manager, talking to a general contractor, how to fix the property. At that point, maybe those hours would count, right? So that's my understanding of acquiring. It's vague, right, on purpose, but that's how I would determine it. But like I said, how often are you acquiring apartments, right? And is that enough hours? The next one is converting a primary residence into a rental. So, once again, if I were to, let's say this is my primary, and now I want to make this into a rental property or an Airbnb, then at whatever time and energy I spent to convert that, I can log those hours. Once again, not that many hours. The next one is renting. So lease operation. So I view this as property management, right? So if you're a property manager, this counts. Next one is operation or management. Once again, it's vague. So to me, property management, right? But like I said, we have no interest in doing property management. We do actually self-manage some of our rentals here in California. We have one that's in Southern California, and we do self-manage that. So, maybe we could document those hours, but once again, we don't really spend that much time with those properties. But it's a way to document it. And then the last one is brokering real estate. So to me, I think it's the easiest. So you're being a realtor, right? You're brokering real estate transactions. And these hours are a little bit more obvious, right? So let's just say, you talk to a prospective buyer, you're qualifying them, they're pre-qualified. You talk to them, what's their buy box, and then you're showing them open houses. You can document all these hours, right? And this is where it really racks up. And then maybe you get it under contract, and then now you're doing the inspection, right, of the property with the buyer. That counts as hours. Maybe you're filming a video, and those counts as hours. So I think to me, the easiest is brokering. So becoming a real estate agent, right? I think that's the easiest way for somebody who's working part-time as a pharmacist to qualify as a professional status is becoming a realtor, right? Um, so that's what we kind of want to do. And, the tricky part too is, and this is like completely off tangent, but I talked to my uncle about this, and he kind of like shared his insight because he's been doing his own taxes for like 30 years, and he owns real estate as well, and he owns an S corp. So he knows a little bit more about taxes, and that's whose brain I usually pick, and I'll definitely pick his brain when the time comes. But he kind of mentioned one thing, saying that like when you start like a realtor business, the IRS thinks it's reasonable to have about 3 years for you to start making money, right? Because in your first 3 years, you're getting established, you're starting yourself up, you're building your systems, you're getting your clients. It takes time to build that up. So they give you 3 years of like not making much money, right? So as long as I can document hours as a realtor, and maybe I don't sell much real estate. Maybe the first year I only sell one piece of real estate, and I get $30,000 in commission, gross. But I'm making $100,000 as a pharmacist. And then in year two, let's just say now I'm getting better. I sold 3 properties, and I'm making $90,000 as a realtor, $100,000 as a pharmacist. And then in year three, I get even better, and maybe I sell 4 properties, so now I'm making $120,000 as a realtor and $100,000 as a pharmacist. So that's kind of the typical trajectory you want. But let's just say in year one, you only do it, you sell 1 property, 30,000. Year two, 1 property, 30,000. Year three, 1 property, 30,000. Year four, and you're still making $100,000 as a pharmacist, and you're claiming real estate professional status 3 years in a row. Well, by year four, if you try to claim it again, they might start auditing you because at that point it's just a hobby, right? Like it's just a hobby. Realistically, you're a pharmacist trying to take advantage of this part-time pharmacist trying to take advantage of real estate professional status. So they want to see that your income as a realtor grow over time too, right? So what I'm trying to say is like if we want to take advantage of real estate professional status, we have to take an earnest stab at it for 3 years. And by year four, we better start showing results, better start showing income, right? So that's what I mean by they want you to earnestly do it. So that's why when she becomes a realtor, I want her to create content because this is proof too. Like maybe she's showing a property and then doing a video narration. Maybe she's talking to prospective clients. Maybe she's creating content to advertise herself. So now it shows like, hey, I'm a legit realtor, and when we get audited, we have all this proof, right? We have time logs of how much hours as a pharmacist, how much hours as a realtor. We show that we are making money as a realtor. Hopefully, that income increases over time. So it's really that story that you can share to qualify. Because, like I said, but in this case, if she just quits pharmacy altogether and is a full-time realtor, it's a lot easier, right? Like you just can say, well, if you sell 1 or 2 properties, well, the average realtor makes $50,000 a year. So if you can kind of claim 50,000, which is what selling 2 houses in California, it's totally doable. But this is if you're working as a part-time pharmacist. So that's kind of the strategy that we're thinking. Just documenting those hours. And like I said, to kind of summarize all this whole video, more than 50% of your time must be in real estate related activities compared to non-real estate related activities. So how we're going to do that is 20 hours as a pharmacist, 21 hours as a realtor, document all those activities, right? All activities I'm going to document on an Excel spreadsheet, keep it handy because our risk of being audited increases significantly the moment we claim that. Number two is at least 750 hours a year performing real estate related activities. That's 15 hours per week. Once again, that should be easy. So I think that's what it is to qualify for real estate professional status. Typically in TurboTax, they ask you the question, do you qualify, yes or no? And you can click yes or no. So I've always been clicking no because I never qualify. Once again, if you're in real estate development, real estate construction, acquiring real estate, converting your primary property management, brokering. Once again, I think brokering is the easiest way to qualify with that. So, I think the path for us is like she's going to have to become a realtor, and I want her to kind of document her journey in becoming a realtor because, I think the job itself isn't hard. The hard part about being a realtor is getting qualified buyers to actually close on deals, right? That's the hardest part. And typically, all of us, we know a few realtors, right? Like it's very common, but like who do you trust enough to do the job? So at the end of the day, it's just trust building, and then maybe if you can get listings, then there you go. That's your unfair advantage. So anyways, let me know if you have any questions. Please give me some input if I made any mistakes. I'm still learning myself, and eventually want to take advantage of this myself later down the road. Otherwise, if you want to learn how to buy multifamily real estate with some guidance, check out the mentorship program down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you next one. Thank you so much.